Platoon and assigned to L Company.
De toute façon, donc, il était dans la compagnie M, donc il y avait 8 compagnies. Et en fait, il était rattaché à la compagnie L, qui est une compagnie d'infanterie rifleman.
As nearly as I can correctly reconstruct, we know that's west, that's north, and that's west. And the battle, we were moving from the eastern side of the peninsula to the west, toward La Haye-de-Puy. And that's Hill 122, I believe, up there. All right, we were out, if you go out about 400 yards, there was a drainage ditch where I Company had run. We were originally camped out in there someplace, and we were hit by a horrendous artillery. No, it would have been, I'm sorry, it would have been over there on this side of the road. We were hit by a horrendous artillery barrage, and they moved us, therefore, to the drainage ditches. And way out there, I'm going to say 400 yards, was a drainage ditch like this, and that's where I Company guys, most of them, jumped. Some of them didn't get there, but some did. There was another drainage ditch about 80 or 90 yards this way that was parallel, and that's where L Company went, with the platoon from M Company. That's where I was.
Alors, Clément, tu pourras traduire.
And then another 80 yards this way was K Company.
Alors, moi, j'ai à peu près compris. En fait, donc ils arrivaient dans cette direction, donc à rattacher à la compagnie L. Et la I compagnie était dans un fossé à peu près 100 mètres. 400 mètres, pardon. 400 mètres dans cette direction, donc un fossé de drainage. Ouais. Et en fait, il progressait plus dans cette direction. Et en fait, là, il rejoignait la I compagnie qui était isolée. Et donc, ils allaient. La manœuvre, c'était de le rejoindre, quoi.
Et au moment où ils ont essayé de se rapprocher de la compagnie qu'ils allaient joindre, il y a eu un barrage d'artillerie énorme. Donc il y en a certains qui ont réussi à atteindre le fossé de drainage où était la compagnie I, je crois, c'est ça. Et d'autres qui n'ont pas réussi. Beaucoup de pertes avec ce barrage d'artillerie.
We were surrounded on the 6th of July by the 15th Regiment of the 5th German Parachute Division. And shall I go on?
Yeah. En fait, ils se sont retrouvés donc, le 6 juillet entourés par le 5e régiment, 5e Fallschirmjäger.
Our mortars were sent in about 5,000 rounds of mortar fire, and that stopped the Germans for a while, but they occupied this town. This, Marianne?
Yes.
You want to tell them how this came to be known as
Beaucoudray?
Yeah, you could tell it in French, couldn't you?
No, I don't think so. Not the entire story. It's Henri's story, really.
A little louder now, sweetheart.
Okay, there's a farm near here.
Why don't you come out here?
There is a farm over here called Beaucoudray. And so the American spies and the German spies had Beaucoudray on their map, but it was an ancient map. So they thought that this town was Beaucoudray, but it actually was a farm over here.
En fait, les Américains, les Allemands et les Français, les cartes, en fait, ils avaient le nom de Beaucoudray, mais Beaucoudray, c'est une ferme qui est un peu plus loin. Et les Allemands et les Américains pensaient que Beaucoudray, c'était le village. Donc, c'est juste un peu l'histoire, mais en fait, Beaucoudray, c'est juste une ferme. Mais pour les Américains, le village s'appelle Beaucoudray, sauf que c'est pas Beaucoudray.
Pour avec les mortiers.
Ah oui, donc je sais plus.
Ben, en fait, pour revenir, donc la compagnie qui va rejoindre la compagnie I, donc ils s'en sont sortis parce que leurs mortiers ont tiré plus de 5000 obus de mortier sur les Allemands qui occupaient le village ici. C'est seulement comme ça qu'ils ont réussi à calmer un petit peu les Allemands, que le reste des gens puissent arriver au niveau du fameux fossé de drainage.
Perfect timing here. Germans were not using artillery on us because we were pretty much intermixed, and they didn't know exactly where we were. And our artillery was not much help, although they were trying to think of a way to put this. Both artillery, enemy artillery and our artillery, had to be careful not to drop artillery on us. So ours were dropping artillery here on the town, and we were out there, as I described, I Company, L Company with M Company at machine guns, and then K Company. And we fought for 2 days, on the 7th of July, and on the 6th of July, and the 7th of July. But we were running out of ammunition, and nobody could get through to bring any more ammunition.
Alors, en fait, il expliquait déjà au début que l'artillerie allemande ne les pilonnait pas directement parce qu'ils ne savaient pas trop où ils étaient, donc ils avaient peur de taper déjà sur leurs unités ici dans le village. Et de même pour les Américains. Donc, par contre, ils bombardaient le village, pas les alentours, mais le village. Et donc, comme il a décrit tout à l'heure, ils étaient dans le fossé avec la I compagnie, donc la L compagnie avec sa section, et la K compagnie juste devant. Et donc pendant 2 jours ils sont battus, donc le 6 et le 7 juillet 1944.
Il n'avait plus de munitions et personne n'arrivait à leur ramener des munitions non plus.
Voilà. Donc comme ils étaient isolés, ils étaient vraiment à court de munitions.
Most combat is not a matter of seeing an enemy soldier and shooting him. Most combat is a matter of everybody shooting as fast as they can, machine guns, everything, filling the air with bullets. And that's covering fire so that you can advance. And with that much firepower out there, it makes the enemy keep their head down so you can move up. And then you stop. So we had a few bullets left each, but we didn't have that kind of ammunition where you could put out a field of fire. And one by one, the riflemen ran out of ammunition. You could hear the clips clanging out, and then that was it. So our machine gun, we had part of a belt in the gun and another can. And our first sergeant came along and put that second belt of ammunition, and they broke it down to refill M1 clips. So we were that short of ammunition.
Au départ, il expliquait que la guerre, c'était pas de... Il voyait l'ennemi, il le voyait jamais. Il visait pas une cible directement.
Remplir l'espace
de tir.
Faire baisser les têtes, et une fois que les têtes étaient baissées, ils ne tiraient plus, et ils profitaient du temps où ils ne tiraient plus pour avancer un petit peu, ils avançaient comme ça, et c'est vraiment remplir toute la zone de feu avec un maximum de toutes les mers qu'ils pouvaient envoyer. Et puis ils avaient plus, à un moment donné, ils ont de moins en moins de munitions, ils avaient leurs mitrailleuses, et le first sergent, donc de la compagnie, il est arrivé près des mitrailleurs. Il a pris dans la deuxième boîte de réserve les bandes de munitions, 250, il a coupé dedans et il donnait ce qui restait aux riflemen. Et il expliquait qu'ils entendaient le bruit des clips des garants et ils savaient que c'était fini, quoi.
The men of K Company withdrew on the evening of the 6th. And I think it was because they'd had several casualties. I think most of their officers were dead, but we in L Company didn't know that K Company was gone, and we thought we had protection from K Company. I'm the one that found out that they weren't there because I ran across and jumped over the hedgerow thinking I'd find K Company to see if I could get some ammunition from them, and there was nobody there except the packs that had been discarded. And so that's how we knew that K Company was gone, and now the enemy could move up on this side of L Company, which they did. And during the fighting during the day, our platoon leader was David Harvey, and he was killed. And the fellow, the L Company man who was commanding our unit was David Shaver. He was killed. And a couple of our sergeants were also killed during the fighting while we were fighting from the ditch. And pretty soon we had a number of dead in the ditch. And we looked out, finally, on the afternoon of the 7th of July, and here came the Germans. They were walking right toward us. And we started firing, but immediately you could hear the clips popping out of M1s, meaning I'm empty. And one of the sergeants yelled out, "We're going to have to surrender, because we don't have enough ammunition now." Huey McMillan opened fire with our last machine gun belt. And I don't blame him for this. He ducked down. If this is ground level, he down like this, firing that machine gun. But instead of firing at the Germans, he was firing at this angle. So we blew up half a belt of ammo without hitting anything. But some of the riflemen were still shooting at the advancing Germans, but it became clear that we were about done. And I had a carbine. Who has a carbine? There's one. I had one of those. They're not much good in the mud. And mine jammed. So we started yelling, "Surrender." And one man jumped down into the ditch where we were, the L Company ditch, and raised up a machine pistol, a rifle, an automatic rifle, and I didn't know they had any, but they had one. And he was going after us, and so Paul Castile, who was an 18-year-old kid, whirled around and killed him. And then a grenade, what do I want to call it? Potato masher grenade landed right next to me, and I dropped down into a depression I had carved out of the side of the ditch, and it went off, and it didn't do any damage. So their potato masher grenades were not terribly dangerous unless they put a little metal cover over them. Then it would send out pieces, shrapnel. So at this point, everybody surrendered. And we came out with hands up, and the Germans marched us right out here in the street. And the church was not there. It probably was there at the base of it, but it had been destroyed in the artillery. And so I don't remember seeing the church, but somewhere along here, we were lined up and were about to be searched, and an artillery barrage landed in our midst. And I remember looking over and seeing a guy named Waggett just as he got hit. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in the middle of the street right over there. It would have been really right out about there, about 50 feet out that way. And, thanks, Al. If you can, guys, spread out here. We were lined up right about here. The men of I Company, L Company, and a few M Company. And there's where we suffered many casualties. And this is a story, but I don't know how you'd ever get it over, so I won't try to tell you. But there was a Mexican man. I was hit and lying out on the street there. And the Mexican man came over and picked me up. under fire and carried me over right up against the curb. And then they carried Earl Brewer, who was my squad leader, over next to me. And he had been hit by the same artillery shell that I was. I was hit in the legs and the arm. He was hit in the chest. And so Earl looked up at me, lying right there, and started to ask me what had just happened. And his eyes rolled back and he was dead. And George Jackson was our section leader, and they dragged George over next to Earl. And he looked up at me, and he started to ask what had happened. And then he died. So I was looking at both of them face to face when they died. And then they carried me into that building right there. This was a cafe. It's on a table. Can't see. There was a table up against the window. They put me on that table, and a German sergeant came in carrying a canteen, and he came over and asked me if I was thirsty, and I said yes, and he gave me his canteen, and it was filled with a hard cider, which I drank. And I got pretty drunk. Okay. Vincent, can you do anything with what I just told?
Oh.
Allez, répète.
J'ai à raconter quand ils étaient dans les... En plus, je suis un peu ému. Il racontait quand ils étaient déjà dans les fossés, donc à court de munitions. Donc il y a déjà plusieurs officiers, sous-officiers qui ont été tués. Donc il a tiré les dernières balles, il avait son copain McGriff. Il a tiré avec sa mitrailleuse au-dessus sans pouvoir voir. Donc en gros les dernières munitions qu'ils ont eues, elles sont parties dans l'espace. Donc à court de munitions, leur sergent leur a dit de se rendre. Donc, ils ont été instantés, donc ils se sont venus par là. Donc avec des hommes de la compagnie K, compagnie I. Et donc arrivé ici, il y a eu... Ah non, juste avant, il y avait eu une grenade. Fort, là, oui, en fait, il y a eu une grenade allemande qui a été lancée. Et lui, s'est sauté dans le trou d'à côté. Et il l'a jeté et il a rien eu. Enfin, il était blessé à ce moment-là. Ensuite, ils sont arrivés ici. Et c'est là que l'artillerie américaine, à ce moment-là, a ouvert le feu. Et en gros, bah, tout c'était un carnage, quoi. Donc, son officier a été touché apparemment de la même bombe a été touché au thorax, alors que lui il a été touché au bras et aux jambes. Et donc il y a un Mexicain en fait il n'aimait pas les Mexicains là. Et le Mexicain qui ne savait que Carver n'aimait pas trop l'a pris, l'a mis contre lui. Et en fait il y a un de ses officiers qui est mort devant lui, les yeux dans les yeux. Et après il y a un autre de ses copains, j'ai perdu le nom, en fait était encore vivant, ils se sont parlé et il est mort quelques instants après. Et pareil, les yeux dans les yeux. Et donc Carver était assis là. Après les Allemands ont autorisé le médic de leur section à entrer dans la grange, enfin dans la maison là, qui était un caprice. et à s'occuper des blessés avec les Allemands. Et donc Carver a été allongé sur une table juste face à la fenêtre devant vous. Et on lui a donné à boire, c'était du cidre.
Pas du chien?
À mon avis, c'est plutôt du calva, je pense. Calva, oui, voilà. Enfin, il devait penser que c'était du cidre et pas du calva. Ah, bah bon, du calva. Et donc, voilà où on était à peu près.
You might tell them there were about 430 of us in altogether with the companies here. 77 died. Right here. 430.
En fait, c'était 430 environ prisonniers. Et il y en avait 77 de tués ici, dans cette rue.
77 died out there and on that field or on this street.
Depuis le fossé jusqu'à ici.
144 were wounded.
Et 143 ont été blessés.
And the rest were
Et le reste a été fait prisonnier.
So if this had been L Company, all the officers and sergeants would be dead.
En fait, si on était la compagnie L à laquelle elle était affectée, tous les officiers, sous-officiers, pardon, étaient tués.
About half of the others would be wounded.
Et la moitié, en gros, la moitié de chez nous aurait été blessés.
The rest would be prisoners of war.
Et le reste, l'autre moitié, prisonniers de guerre. Ça vous permet d'imaginer.
Well, it's just almost hard to do it with not being able to speak your language. Do you have anything that I maybe should clear up here?
Perfect. Thank you, Carver.
Stories I can tell you, but they'd be lost in the translations.
Il y a des histoires qu'il peut raconter, mais je pourrais être perdu dans la traduction. Comment?
If anybody has a question,
Est-ce que quelqu'un a des questions?
Yeah. Yes, sir. I would like to know what do you think today about the Normandy battle?
what do we think about it?
Yeah.
Well, one, I appreciate what you all are doing. You're keeping alive in the minds of the people what really happened here. Many mistakes were made, but we can't go back and change them. So we're honored to have served here.
It was worth it. Olivier a demandé à Carver ce qu'il pensait de la bataille de Normandy. Donc déjà, il nous remerciait de garder en mémoire l'histoire et de ce qu'on par rapport avec ce qu'on fait. Et ensuite, il disait que par rapport à la bataille de Normandie, il y a eu beaucoup d'erreurs de fait, mais que ce qui est fait, et que ils étaient là pour servir, et puis ils ont fait leur boulot.
Well, they look just like we did.
Un petit peu la question de savoir s'il a écrit un livre, un hommage, quelque chose, parce que tous les détails qu'il a encore en mémoire.
Alors en fait, I explained that you wrote a book. You have wrote a book. En fait, il a écrit un livre, Carver. Et, don't remember the title. The book.
Oh, Making Sense of
Yeah.
Normandy.
Making Sense of Normandy. Vous le trouvez sur Amazon.com, par exemple. Bon, par contre, c'est en anglais. Mais il y a toute sa vie, enfin tous ces détails-là, enfin beaucoup de détails déjà. Là, il y a des choses qu'il a racontées que je ne savais pas non plus. Et sa vie et aussi sa vision avec Dieu, enfin c'est vraiment un super bouquin. Et,
Demander à Carver comment les Allemands se comportaient avec eux quand ils étaient blessés, enfin le après quand le grand prisonnier blessé.
he asked all the Germans feel with you if they were good or not.
Yeah. We were not mistreated. They probably gave it some thought, but they allowed us to surrender, all right. But this area right here, and those fields around here are hallowed ground to us.
J'ai pas compris. Il y a un mot que j'ai pas.
Très spécial.
Ah.
Très
Voiture.
spécial. Carver, we need to